Some cops are preparing to do a drug bust and arrest their target, which they note to be a massive man, so they arm themselves with bats. The target arrives at an adult club and drops off the package, which a valet discreetly picks up and heads to the back. Suddenly he is attacked by a dancer in the club who then steals his package and splits. The cops observe the drop, however, as the suspect is not leaving the club, the cops launch their attack. This massive man begins throwing them around, even uprooting a tree and swinging wildly until the leader of the squad takes him down skillfully. In the back they see the empty bag and think the suspect got away with the package. We then meet Tae-shik, a very quiet and reserved man who runs a small pawn shop. He is returning from shopping when he is met by a little girl named Somi, who insists on talking to him even though he ignores her. She spots the sausage he just bought and he shares it with her and they eat together. Somi then blatantly asks Tasic if he is a gangster, as everyone thinks he is hiding from something or someone. She reveals that her mother also tells her that he does bad things to kids, so did you come to find out yourself? Just then there is a banging at the front. Turns out to be the dancer from the club, Hyo-jong, and also Somi's mother. She demands to know where her daughter is, but Somi manages to hide before Tasic opens the door. Not seeing anyone, she pawns a camera, then threatens Tasic to stay away from her child, before hitting on the man she was just accusing of being into kids. Tasic rightfully ignores her, so she insults him and leaves. Women. After, Somi brings Tasic flowers but he just smacks it away and leaves. Later, a gangster named Man-sok is getting smacked up by his boss Myung-gyu, who scolds him for losing the dope and warns him to find it or he will donate him to the organ trade. Later, Hyo-jong is being roughed up by her lover, and it is revealed that he was the one who set her up to steal the dope. She refuses to hand it over and he gives her 1 day before leaving. Tae-shik is alone in his apartment when there is a knock at the door, and it turns out to be Somi who wants to stay until her mom's addict friends are gone. We then see Tae-shik visiting a shrine put up in memory of his wife, along with baby shoes. On the road, he sees Somi getting smacked up by an angry mother who accuses Somi of stealing her son's bag. The cops ask her for her parents and she sees Tae-shik and points to him, but Tae-shik is like, "I'm not your dad," and leaves her there disappointed. Man-sok then calls his brother Jong-suk, having located the stolen stash and having identified the thief Hyo-jong. Later, Tae-shik sees Somi in a store, but she is mad at him and storms out. He walks with her back home and she tearfully asks him if she embarrasses him. She says she understands because everyone ignores her, but she cannot hate Tae-shik, because then she would have nobody left. Somi returns home to see Jong-suk and his right-hand man Lum, torturing her mother with a blow dryer. Later, Tae-shik returns home to see 2 gangsters there waiting for him, saying he has something that belongs to them. He pretends to hand over his wallet but uses it to disarm the man in a flash and warns them to leave. Lum comes up to check, only to see the big guy knocked out. He passes the phone to Tae-shik and it is Jong-suk who wants to know who Tae-shik really is. He demands the camera that Hyo-jong pawned to him and makes Tae-shik hear Somi screaming in the background, as he has her and her mother tied up in his car. Tae-shik hands over the camera bag, and Lum rips it open to reveal some illegal substance hidden inside. Lum then pulls his gun and shoots the downed man before stepping out. Tae-shik races out to see their van driving away, with Somi begging for him to help them, but he is unable to catch the car. Back in the van, Jong-suk wonders why they couldn't take Tae-shik, but his goon says the guy was too fast. Lum then adds that when he shot the guy, Tae-shik did not flinch, which makes him suspicious. Tae-shik tries reporting the kidnapping to the police, but they want to investigate him instead, so he hangs up. He then gets a call from the goons, wanting him to do them a favor before they release Somi and her mother. Tae-shik jumps into a waiting car and speeds off, with the brothers following him. He removes a key from the glove box and heads to a locker where he removes a bag. Jong-suk then orders him to deliver the package to Myung-gyu at 6 p.m. and to ditch the phone, after which they will release the girls. Tae-shik opens the package to see a bag of bad stuff and realizes what he is being asked to do. After, the cops get a so-called anonymous tip-off about a deal going down. Tae-shik gets to the location and hides a knife in his sock, before men come and get him and take him to a room where he meets Myung-gyu. He sits before the crime boss who begins to mock him in Chinese until Tae-shik reveals that he speaks their language. He hands over the dope and demands the girls, but Myung-gyu has no idea what Tae-shik is talking about. Just then, he gets a call from Man-sok just as the cops turn up to raid the place. Man-sok reveals that he set him up to get his revenge. Myung-gyu's men hold Tae-shik and he throws the dope in his face, ordering his men to throw him to the cops. Tae-shik is thrown from the building and lands on some netting, just as Myung-gyu and his men run into the cops. The boss takes another exit and is making his escape when Tae-shik spots him and cuts through the netting. The boss tries to escape in his car, but Tae-shik jumps in his car and blocks the boss's exit, causing him to crash. He gets out and runs, and Tae-shik is prepared to give chase until he spots something in the trunk of his car and stops in shock. The cops catch up to him and arrest him and are petrified at the sight of Hyo-jong's dead body in the trunk of Tae-shik's car. Tae-shik is taken into police custody, where it is revealed that Hyo-jong's organs were all harvested for the black market. The cops do a background check on Tae-shik, but they can find nothing about him from before 2006. They threaten to lock Tae-shik up if he does not talk, but he keeps his mouth shut. After a few minutes, we see the entire police office wiped out and Tae-shik is gone. Somi is dropped off on the side of the road to an old woman who takes her to an apartment, promising to bring her to her mother. The woman instead locks Somi inside the attic and leaves her there. She turns to see other kidnapped children there staring back at her. Tae-shik retrieves the cell phone. Meanwhile, the cops are looking over the footage of Tae-shik as he is breaking out, and note that 6 cops are hospitalized. Looking deeper into his background, they have realized that military intelligence has put a lock in his file. Jong-suk has kidnapped Hyo-jong's boyfriend, accusing him of working with Tae-shik, but he knows nothing, so Man-sok kills him. Meanwhile, Lum has caught up to Myung-gyu and kills him. Upon further investigation, the police officers discover Tae-shik was a former covert operative for the South Korean Army Intelligence, with numerous commendations, but retired after he was wounded and his pregnant wife was killed by a hitman. Tae-shik tracks down the man who sold the burner phone he was given. The man refuses to give up his buyer, so Tae-shik proceeds to completely demolish the guys in the room. He is then given details of an organ harvester named Du-chi. Tae-shik races over to the location, which turns out to be a club. Du-chi is in the bathroom when Tae-shik barges in. Du-chi pulls a knife, but Tae-shik is too fast and forces him to stab himself. He orders Du-chi to bring him to Jong-suk, but suddenly Lum turns up and shoots at him, killing Du-chi in the process. He goes hunting for Tae-shik, who ambushes him, and the two begin to battle. Both men are fast and strong and trade blows evenly, until Lum breaks away and manages to shoot Tae-shik before escaping. Tae-shik grabs an axe and corners Lum on the dance floor, but Man-sok turns up, dropping a phone on the ground before leaving with Lum. He grabs the cell and rushes out to see the brothers driving away. He races after them, but the gunshot begins to weaken him and he is forced to stop. He steals a car when the cops turn up shooting at him, but he escapes. He is driving when Man-sok gives him a call, taunting him about the death of Hyo-jong. He threatens to do the same to Somi, but Tae-shik warns him that he has nothing to live for and plans to take everybody down with him. Tae-shik finds an old friend, who removes the bullet from his body. He remembers the day he lost his wife. They were shopping for their unborn baby, when suddenly a truck crashed, rammed into their car, crushing her. The hitman stepped out and shot him, but his colleagues turned up and saved him before he was killed. Tae-shik recovers and his friend tries talking him out of going after the men, but Tae-shik tells him that there is someone he must find. Tae-shik cuts his hair and gets himself a suit and a gun. He gets a call from the detective on the case, telling him that Somi is still alive and tells him where she was last seen. Meanwhile, Somi and the other kids are being held in a room with Lum keeping guard. Somi sees the wound on his forehead from his fight with Tae-shik and gives him a band-aid, asking him if she will see her mother again, and this seems to bother Lum. Tae-shik gets to the location and spots a dirty kid heading into a game store with a package, and realizes that the kids are being used to traffic illegal substances and collect cash on behalf of the gangs. Tae-shik trails one kid, hoping to get a lead on Somi, but he is spotted by 2 cops and is forced to make a run for it. He ends up in a building where he sees the kid getting into a van outside. The cops have blocked his exit, so Tae-shik bursts through the window, steals a police car and gives chase. The van leads him to an apparently abandoned store, and he heads inside, where he sees dirty footsteps leading behind a wall. He uncovers the secret entrance and stumbles upon a drug lab being run by kids with no masks. One kid collapses and Tae-shik realizes that Jong-suk and his men are there with them. He sneaks to another room where he sees what looks like an operating table and bodies being stored after their organs are removed. Tae-shik sees some kids in another room. One is about to be injected and Tae-shik shoots the man dead. He begins to shoot all the guards before cornering Jong-suk and throwing him around the room out of anger. Man-sok is taking care of shipment when he gets a call from Tae-shik, demanding that he bring Somi to him. He has Jong-suk tied up and shoots him with a nail gun, causing him to scream in pain, angering Man-sok. He gives Man-sok an hour to return the girl before hanging up. He opens the gas lines in the lab, and sets a timed explosion before leaving the man there to die. After a while, a massive explosion rips through the building. Outside, Tae-shik has gathered the kids, telling them they're going home. Somi is being held in a van by Lum and his man. She asks to see her mother, but when she learns that her mother has been killed, she calls Lum a liar, before breaking down in tears. She is then drugged and prepared for surgery as they plan to harvest her corneas. Tae-shik tracks Man-sok down to his hideout, where he is surrounded by men. Tasic enters alone, demanding to get Somi back for his brother. Man-sok then takes out a cylinder and rolls it over to Tasic, who is shocked to see eyes floating in water. Tasic breaks down in tears as Man-sok taunts him, telling him that they killed the girl. Tasic then pulls his gun and begins to kill the men while trying to avoid gunfire from Lum. He runs out of bullets and begins to battle the men, taking a number of blows and even getting stabbed, but he uses a knife to carve his way through the men. He tries going for the eyes but Lum shoots them. The two then face each other. Lum pulls his knife and attacks and the two trade swift blows, with Tasic slowly beginning to rip him apart, before finishing him off with multiple stabs and one final stab to his heart. Man-sok and his guard are trying to escape when Tasic shoots the guard dead. Man-sok tries driving away, but Tasic shoots the tires out causing him to crash. Man-sok tries calling for the cops, but Tasic climbs on top of his car and tries shooting but the glass is bulletproof. Man-sok begins to taunt him that he can never get through, but Tasic presses the nozzle against the glass and begins to fire multiple shots until the glass breaks, and he finally kills Man-sok with a headshot. Having gotten his vengeance, but still losing Somi, Tasic prepares to off himself out of grief, until he sees Somi step out of the shadows. She'd been saved by Lum, who took pity on her because she had been kind to him and the eyes in the container belonged to another gangster. Somi breaks down crying, happy that Tasic actually cared to come and save her, and he breaks down crying also, happy to have her back. The police allow Tasic and Somi to ride together after Tasic's arrest. While Somi sleeps, Tasic asks them to drop at a small convenience store where he buys a backpack along with other school supplies. He tells Somi that she's going to be on her own, as the police have to take him away. Before he goes, he asks her for a hug and breaks down in tears as they embrace. Remember to turn on notifications, so you can watch more movie recaps like this. Thanks for watching.